watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. I'm here in the studio. Stephen is at home with Timmy. Because Stephen's got a really rotten cold, I think, right now. And he's doing a sterling job just joining us. I don't know if we can see Stephen and Timmy. Because everybody, here we go. Oh, you've got little treats.
I've had to resort to the dreamies, Anne, but they never fail.
No one knows.
So just because Bev messaged before, didn't she, saying she wanted to see more of Timmy. So yeah, Timmy, show your beautiful face to Bev. It's this way, darling.
This way.
There we go. Here we go. So there we go. It's a good boy. There we go.
He's just not cooperating there, but.
Where are my dreamies?
All through when you were broadcasting during lockdown, Timmy became a star, didn't he?
Oh, he did. Do you know what's lovely? I was saying to the boss actually the other day, we get stopped all the time. People always, when you do this job, people often sort of, look at you a little bit. But now on GB people stop and come over for a proper chat. And they really feel they know you, which is so lovely. That's what I really like. But people always ask about Timmy. They always ask about Timmy.
Yeah, I was going to say, we think we are doing an important job, but actually everybody remembers the cat. Never mind. I tell you what, shall we take a look at today's front pages? Lots of newspaper interest, because The Sun is leading with the King bestowing a knighthood on the Queen guitarist Brian May in his first New Year's honours. And everybody's looking at that. And I think that is such a good headline. King knights Queen. Quite right, too. The Times leads on an admission by Sir Chris Whitty that tens of thousands of middle-aged people are dying of heart conditions because they were unable to obtain statins or heart pressure medicine during the pandemic. The Daily Star warns of a very chilly new year as a polar vortex from the North Pole and the US bomb cyclone threaten a big January freeze, polar burr, they say there. The Express report that more than 700 prisoners, including sex offenders, robbers and drug dealers, have escaped from jail or been released in error during the past decade. And the Telegraph leads on Rishi Sunak bringing back COVID travel restrictions for the first time since February by demanding negative tests from arrivals from China. So we'll go through the papers now. Joining us this morning, journalist and political consultant Emma Burnell and broadcaster Claire Muldoon, and Stephen and Timmy from home. Right. Claire, kick us off first, please. In the Telegraph, how we must re-engage Britain's workforce before it's too late.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a huge double spread here in the Telegraph of some evidence to support the fact that only 9% of UK adults feel motivated by their vacation.
Only
9%, okay? From fewer meetings to more office friendships, Bruce Dalesley looks at the way to solve our nation's employee crisis. Now, as we've said earlier, and we know this, that people don't buy newspapers now for the news. They buy them for opinion pieces. Yes. And in my view, this double-page spread really does articulate the issues that Britain is facing. Productivity is down. Apathy is up. Dissatisfaction is up. We just don't know whether or not we're coming or going. We barely know between this period of Christmas and New Year what day of the week it is. Throw in, people just feeling so lethargic and not motivated at all to do their work. Working from home has caused endless amounts of issues, not only in the public sector, but also in the private sector too, of trying to get people back into the office. And yet, at the time, working from home was deemed to be completely unnatural because, as human beings, we are meant to be with each other. I would actually go one step further, and I would actually support the 4-day working week, because I think to compress 5 days of work into 4 would actually help people, help society, help friendships, help motivation, help families, help everything actually grow and prosper. Because do you know what? At the end of the day, life is too damn short.
Well, it's a very valid point, except we're all talking from the perspective of our sort of work, aren't we? We're saying, office jobs, and we can be more productive. We can cram more stuff in. There's so many people. I mean, I don't know, probably the majority of people who are working in factories and things, and they can't increase their workload. They can't work a full day.
Well, they can't increase the workload, But my view, Stephen, would be to employ more people. So therefore, employability would go up, unemployment would go down. And if we have a certain shift pattern, perhaps, per se, the productivity has been proven that productivity actually increases over that 4-day period. And you don't have the wishy-washy job share partnership that sometimes can evolve through after post-paternity or post-maternity, where you find that women and men are actually working more than they should be because nothing they feel is being done. And the evidence in this article is suggesting that people are going from meeting to meeting to meeting, not physically now because it's on Zoom, but that's not actually helping anything because nothing is being done. Yes, you can sit and have meetings till you come out of your, the meetings are coming out of your iCloud, never mind the clouds. But the fact is that only 9% of the UK employed is actually satisfied with their vacation. And I think that's a really sad indictment.
And I think, Stephen, the people you're talking about, people working in factories, are definitely not going to be part of that 9%. The way that we treat people with their apps and their AI and you don't get a loo break and you don't get any time to take a breath, the way that we, most of us who do an office job, who work, I don't do an office job, but I do work at a computer all day, you know that you do 20 minutes of really productive work, then read an article or something.
Yeah.
Reboost your brain, give yourself that moment. And the way that we treat factory workers is appalling. And so I think if we gave them a 4-day week, they would at least have 3 days where they're not constantly being tracked by an app.
But it's always been the same, though. I mean, 30 years ago was working in a shoe factory. It's no one had a mobile phone then. It's always been the same, though. I mean, it is often laborious sort of work, but it's just, it's got to be done.
Yeah, but now it's being reported, and I think there is a greater liability almost on employers now to actually make sure that their staff are actually well, because if you treat people well, it's a no-brainer. If you treat people well with kindness and compassion, you will get, and you do get, more out of them.
Yeah, I don't think bad work has always been bad is a great argument for keeping bad work. I mean, where would we be if we still had the Victorian conditions?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with increasing your expectations, I guess, is there?
No, I suppose not. I just wonder if a lot, and I think this is a lot partly what we need to dispel as GB News, I think, is I think we have a lot of misconceptions and we see things through, our own perspective of being, in a type of job that most people aren't in.
Yeah, but my brother's a picker in a factory, so it's not like completely out of the realms of the things that we experience. We all know people in these jobs. It's I'm very, very lucky that I do have the kind of freestyle lifestyle that I have, but it doesn't mean that I'm completely isolated and insulated from understanding what it's like.
The other interesting fact from this article, in fact, is that school leavers and university students actually are more productive when they're not under the constraints of timings. They leave. I mean, I'm a terrible one for leaving things too last minute. Anyway, I work to a tight deadline, and that gets, because I work better that way. Other than if you've got someone who is under the cosh of the 9 to 5. It just doesn't work for a lot of the people.
Tell you what, Stephen.
Interesting.
Stephen, Martin's got in touch, said, I'm currently enjoying a certain cream liqueur in my coffee whilst enjoying the show. I love being invited into Stephen's living room. It looks so cosy. Although don't let him get too used to it or he won't want to come back into the studio.
And there you are, can I say, your Timmy looks just like my Smudgy. They could be brother and sister.
They may. Who knows? They may be. Emma, let's have a look at the Times, should we? What have you got in the Times for us?
Yes, it seems that we are in set for the lowest the biggest wage drop since World War II. Men's wages are set to drop by 5% and women's by 4.4%. So we've been talking about how tumultuous the year 2022 has been. In many ways, 2023 is going to be the hangover from that. And I think it's going to feel at times like a really hard grind, a really difficult year to get through. We're all feeling the pinch. Nobody is not suffering in some way from this, whether it's just the fact that everything costs more more, or whether it's the fact that wages are not keeping up with that. So I think that in some ways it won't keep hitting the headlines, but it will keep hitting our lives and our pockets, and that is where it becomes much more difficult, because if we're not constantly talking about it, it's not news, but it does just wear you down and grind you down.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they're having a tough time, Claire, in Parliament with super mice.
I don't know why on earth the sub-editor or the journalist didn't even use the term vermin here, because after reading the article, one would actually wonder, are they actually talking about the MPs here? But no, they're not. We've got a parliament that's infested with super mice that evade traps and are immune to a second season debate, an official review has found. Almost £65,000, yes, £65,000, was spent in 2020-2021 trying to combat Westminster's rodent problem, yet the pests still persist. And I do think we can actually upload those pests and maybe intersect that with some names in Parliament, don't you think?
They just need more cats.
Well,
they need more cats, but I mean, Parliament's been falling apart for years. You go in there and there's masonry on the floor that's just fallen down, and we've known for so long that they need to decamp Parliament, get the people out of there so they can actually do the building work. And the fact that they haven't managed it, and this is not this government problem, it's the MPs are being ridiculous about it on all sides. It's just pathetic. Just go and do your job in the Queen Elizabeth Centre or somewhere else that's like 10 minutes down the road, while they get on with rebuilding this beautiful, wonderful building that desperately needs the work.
Well, actually, on the subject of building, sorry, you were just going to look at school buildings.
Yeah, oh, goodness me, what a mess. I mean, yet another Gavin Williamson triumph. A scheme that's been set up to lend money to developers to say, if you're building a new housing development, you should borrow this money to build a school alongside it to make sure that the new housing developments are not putting pressure on school places. Really important scheme. When you build housing development, you have to put the infrastructure up alongside it. No one's taking it up because it's designed so badly, and it's now been scrapped completely. So there's nothing in place to take over from it. Nothing's happening, and yet again we're just seeing a complete lack of joined up thinking, and one more failure by the Department of Education.
The problem with all of these things, I think, when it comes to buildings, because I mean, there's an issue with that. There's an issue with military housing as well, some of which is literally falling apart, with serving members still living in these places. That these are all very. The problem is, it's all very expensive. It's all capital expenditure, which is what we're told we haven't got the money at the minute.
Well, this is not government money being spent. These are loans that would have interest, and part of the problem, of course, is that interest rates have risen, and so the developers are saying, well, we're not interested in it. But these are private developers expected to build these, and they're saying that the way that the scheme has been set up just makes it completely uneconomic.
Well, I think it's actually worse than that, because 46 years ago I was in primary school and we had huts that leaked water. You know, we were, in these kind of like big prefabricated, not camper vans, but like almost like an old caravan, a static van. And that was 46 years ago. And we see that nothing has changed. We're a developed country, for heaven's sake. Well, yeah. Why don't we have the infrastructure in place to help support decent educational buildings in order for our children to flourish? It really concerns me.
One of the first things the Cameron government did in 2010 was scrap the Building Schools for the Future Fund, and now look, you're absolutely right. I remember my primary school flooded every year. Every February half term, we rang up our secondary school because we knew the heating wouldn't be working. We knew we wouldn't be able to go in, and it just seems like we've come nowhere.
Yeah. Fast as well, nowhere fast.
And it's not very inspirational for a whole generation of kids to be educated in really awful buildings.
And it shows how much we don't prioritise them.
But where's the money going to come from? I don't know. We've got to leave it there. I think we're running out of time, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah, we are. Just before you go, I know you're coming back next hour.
Well, I've said I'm not coming back, actually. I'm putting my foot down. I'm going home.
Stroppy. Stroppy for the end of the year. Have you come across in the last year any interesting baby names? You know, any ones that you think, why on earth did they name that child that?
Delilah.
Delilah?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Exactly. I can't say I have.
No,
but
well, we're going to be talking baby names in a couple of moments because it is fascinating how you can often tell a year by all the children's names
there
from
was a
that year.
big thing of like quite old-fashioned names about 4 or 5 years ago. All the young babies being called Maud and things that
That's
your
right.
granny was
Yes.
called and stuff. It's really
Daisy.
interesting the way they come around.
Floral names come around.
or asparagus even.
Maybe not asparagus. Maybe not asparagus.
You get
No one saw that
lettuce,
coming.
Don't you? You know a few
Sorry?
lettuces.
Lettuce.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lettuce, very
Let's not
old-fashioned.
thought about that.
And rather a lovely name, Letty for short, of course. Yeah, we'll come across some. I've come across some astonishing names, and when you have a child, you often name them a name. You think that will be pretty unique.
Yeah.
And then by the time they go to school, every child is named them.
My friend had exactly that. She called her child Kyron, thinking it was really unusual. 3 Kyrons in his class.
Kyron.
Kyron,
I mean,
yeah.
that's really unusual.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. But Stephen, you and I are pretty conventional with our names, I suppose. aren't
Yes, but I like it. I'm biblical. I quite
Yes,
like
exactly. Me
biblical
too.
name.
Absolutely, saint's name and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
St. Anne, mother of Our Lady.
Yes, that's
maybe?
right. Yes, yeah, it's a good one. But I always wanted to be called Annie instead of Anne. But anyway, we'll move on because we are going to talk about children's names now with an expert.